Alrighty, on this episode, we're going to be talking about homegrown. So we have 3 different versions of this podcast. This is a homegrown edition. We're going to be talking about homeschooling, the adverse effects of the pandemic on education, and the influence of remote work on the family. So stay tuned on the other side.
You gotta let it down, 'cause you can work wherever now.
All right, welcome into the Work River podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about remote work and how you can do that so you can live every day like it's Saturday. And we have a different version of the podcast today.
No.
So it is my wife.
Yeah.
Halie is here.
Hey, Roy.
Hi.
Hi.
So,
I haven't seen you all day.
yeah, I know. I just sit upstairs and stand. Basically, I've been standing all day on my standing desk. But you got me.
Yeah. I'm walking at the
I
treadmill.
haven't walked today. And my feet are killing me. I walked outside.
Okay.
I'm on day 30 of 75 hard. So for you listening, 75 hard, you have to do 1 workout for 45 minutes outside, 1 inside. And yeah, I've been walking outside. So I did that in the rain.
I don't know if I would really bring up the fact that you're walking. As
Walking
your workout.
counts?
Do you want to get into that right now?
Yeah, we can start off with that.
Okay.
Why does a walking count? You can't go power lift for 75 days straight. You'll
Powerlift isn't the only option, but
So
walking is something that you do.
what is?
I mean, I don't
it's
know
like
if
a
I would-
brisk walk. It's I feel like if I were jogging, I'd be going the same speed.
You're really getting it out
You
there
know?
on the neighborhood.
I'm getting it. I am going.
Well, good. You know, like you tell Avery, if it feels like a workout, then
It's a workout. I feel like it's a workout. What would you Would you count yoga as a workout?
if I'm sitting there and I am challenging my body, then yeah. I
Yeah.
think that walking is not really a challenge. But if you're out there speed walking,
I mean, I'm sweating.
yeah. Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Sure. It's not. You're not impressed. It's like a brisk walk,
I
and
like a sweat walking around this house all day.
yeah.
randomly
So I
and
did.
stuff, so.
Let's see. I have 6,600 steps right now. So I did a 5,000 step walk, which was about a little under 3 miles.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to take anything from you. You've been doing a good job, and it's more than I can say.
Yeah.
It's just I like to laugh at you about the whole
I know.
walking
I think
workout.
walking counts.
I know you're doing a really good job.
And and to tie that back into I'm only able to do this because I work from home. When I had to go to the office, I tried to do 75 hard and I failed 9 times.
Yeah, because when would you find time?
I never had 45 minutes in the middle of the day
that's
to
your
go for a
commute.
walk. Yeah.
Yeah,
I could
there and
read.
back. That's your commute.
Right. No, yeah, you're right. I could read I took the metro. I could read on the train, which I liked that. I read a lot more books when I worked in the office.
Mhm.
But I could not walk. I had no time to walk.
You read a lot now. You think you read a lot more books when you're in the office?
Yeah, because I had an hour and a half a day to just sit and read.
Yeah. Right.
And I would just read on the train. I'd read the newspaper. I would read books. I mean, I read 20 some books one year. And now, I still read a lot. You read a lot. You read more, which is on the topic of today's podcast. So for those of you guys who are just tuning in for the first time, and Haley's here. So this is a new flavor of the podcast. We have 4 different flavors. And so typically we had said that our 4 flavors were interviews, where we're bringing on people to have conversations about technology, remote work, etc. We have Internet Hotspot, where we go over trending articles in the news. We have what people have dubbed Roy's Rants, where I put on my tinfoil and I talk about what could be. Those are short, typically. And then we were going to do trivia. And so we did an episode of trivia, and it was difficult to do the trivia episodes because I had to bring employees away from work for an hour. And so people were getting called and it had a lot of echo. So we never released it. So we were like, what else could we do that would be beneficial and fun to listen to? And we're like, well,
Let's give this a try.
let's give this a shot. So that's where Halie comes in, and we're going to call these homegrown, which you guys can go to homegrownwithhalie.com, which is your website. So what is homegrown for Halie? I'll let you explain what homegrown.
What isn't it? I think that it kind of just evolved from us starting to do all aspects of life from home, homeschooling, owning a business, and working from home. And then when we moved into this house, a year ago?
Yeah.
We have a little extra land that we are hoping to try out some homesteading things. So, like chickens and gardens and pets and
we have so many pets.
Dirt. So much money.
There's dirt everywhere. It was just raining today.
Yeah. And it's just, it's part of it.
So much
You just have to kind of embrace it. And, that is kind of the thing is like, if you're going to take on the idea of homesteading, which we're not really in the full throes of homesteading.
We're just trying to figure that one out.
Right. But if you're going to take on the ideas, then you have to be ready to take on like the mud that comes along with it. And so the house tends to have dirt all this way. It does drive me nuts, but
we have 4 kids.
Yeah.
So I've never really talked about our family on the podcast, but we have 4 kids ranging from 12 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a COVID baby.
He was born in the beginning.
He was born in the beginning of COVID. Not really a COVID baby, I guess. I don't know how you define it.
I don't want to term him a COVID baby.
Yeah, he's not.
He's a normal child.
He was born February. Well, COVID babies are normal children too, but he was not born because we were forced to be home. He was born February of 2020. So we have 2-year-old, 12-year-old, and a few crazies in between. So we have 4 kids. Then we have a whole mess of animals. 2 dogs, 2 cats.
Which really isn't that many. You say a whole mess, but
It's too many animals.
I know.
I wanted 1 cat, and we came home with 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have 2.
Mm-hmm.
Poor honey. But we got a bunch of animals, and that's just like the beginning of it. This last year we had 30,000 bees.
Oh.
But we're about to have 60,000 bees.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then you mentioned chickens, which how many chickens are we getting?
I'm gonna start with between 6 and 8.
So why that number?
Because based on the size of the coop and the run, that is what's recommended.
So break that down for me. So we obviously have not really had this conversation. I know that you want chickens.
We have had this conversation, but you don't remember, and that's okay. So we have it on here now. It's recorded, so
I know that we're building.
It's actually really good. I like the idea that we're
just going to record like Roy, go to episode blah blah blah, and so you can hear about.
Yeah.
I know that I'm building the coop, so you got me a book to build this coop.
Yeah.
And the run, but like why? So, but 6 to 8 is good for starting out, and they'll lay every day?
Based on the size that I've dedicated.
On the size that you want of the space of the coop and everything. Yes. That's the good
at least
number.
To start with. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is great, and we end up feeling comfortable with slaughtering the chickens once, but I can't just be overrun with chickens unless we have like some kind of end plan for them. And that sounds really
that is like a
morbid.
Serious thing to consider that I did. We did look into like the idea of having eggs now.
Eggs is
that's what we want.
And it's not just from this whole like egg post crisis thing.
We were talking about this before.
Yes.
Having eggs was cool.
No.
Yeah.
People have been having eggs forever. So
well, okay. But now eggs are like $18 a dozen.
Yes. Right. Okay.
We're not doing it because of that.
No.
We're doing it because I like eggs. We want to have our own eggs.
Yeah. And it's expensive to feed our family.
It's expensive to feed 6
And we
people.
homeschool, and it will be fun. We're here all the time. So we have, anything that we can do in our free time or for a hobby, like revolves in some way around the house.
So let's talk about that. So this episode, we are going to talk about homeschooling, adverse effects of the pandemic on education and influence on remote work. But so I guess the start out for the influence of remote work was prior to, well, I've been a remote worker for...
I mean, the before times.
The before times.
Yeah.
I've been a remote worker for 7, 8 9 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That sounds great.
And I would have to go into the office a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a full-time remote pretty much as far back as I can remember, 2016.
Prior to there being a remote culture, it was
Right.
just more of a remote option.
Right. But even when we did that, I mean, we did stuff together. We went to Disney World. I think I worked from Disney World.
Yeah.
And then we would go to like what we call the cottage. We'd go on vacation. We'd go to the beaches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Prior to the culture shift. But since the pandemic or whatever we want to call it, I don't know, since 2020, since everybody else figured out that you could do this,
Yeah.
our lives have changed so much to the fact where that's where homeschooling came into play. Because we were public, so our 12-year-old
Yeah.
was third grade
Mhm.
public school.
Yeah.
And then we even had Chase in private school for a year.
Yes, that was during 2020.
That was during COVID.
He went to a private school for that year.
Because we were trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that there was the Avery, you know, so we only had two. Now that I'm thinking this through, and I'm trying to figure out how we came to this point now.
I mean, I don't think that's something that you have a thought like that quickly because there's a lot of
It was so much.
What do you mean how we've gotten to this point?
So like the homeschooling.
How that came about?
Yeah.
Would you like me to fill in?
Yeah,
that?
please.
Okay. So COVID hit, mid-March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the school, at least in our area, the remote, like the infrastructure to support virtual learning wasn't there. And,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's really no fault of school. Like, yes, they could have prepared better, but I don't know. Hindsight's 2020, right? So the kids all moved to virtual learning. It was a total mess. We opted to avoid that mess because we can. And we definitely feel like we are on the fortunate side of things where, like, I was already home. I was, like, on maternity leave because I just had James. And,
Oh, right.
yeah. And so it was just, I mean, our son, like, he already is very, like, kinesthetic learner, wants to be up and active doing things. So to sit him in front of a computer was not really anything that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I mean, in the state of Virginia, we have that freedom to homeschool. And the straw that really broke the camel's back, I mean, should I say?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't gotta say who.
I won't.
We gotta drop a name.
I can say teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone was having a hard time logging on, and we just got an email from the teacher like halfway through the day, and she said, if you haven't been able to log on by now, you may as well give up.
Yeah.
And I remember exactly where I was at that point. I was out on like a nature trail because I had already said, let's
kind of
scrap
like,
this,
yeah.
you know, school day and go out and, you know, check out some nature or something, you know.
Now, to that point,
But, yeah.
because there's more to that story than just they had started out. We're not going to say who the school was or anything like that, but we are in Fairfax County, which Fairfax County, for those of you who are listening in other counties, there.
Oh, and I will say we have a lot of teachers who are Fairfax County teachers, and they are all wonderful.
Yeah, some of our best friends
Yes.
are teachers,
Yes.
but Fairfax County has no real shortage of resources. We're talking about the third wealthiest county in the entire country. And the 1 and 2 wealthiest counties in the country are our neighbor counties in Falls Church City or Arlington. I think four of the top 5.
Yeah.
Falls Church, Arlington, Loudoun, and Fairfax. So there is a plenty of resources to go around of how we should have figured this problem out. And Fairfax County, they started with, when we first started, wasn't it like Google Meet to start, and then they tried to do Blackboard, and then they tried to do Zoom, and then it was like if you couldn't figure it out by now,
Yes.
right? They went through like 3 different platforms in a series of like 4 days.
And it was a lot of like, I mean, no, I'm not going to say that, but it just wasn't worth it for us.
It's frustrating.
We own our own business, and we've always kind of been risk takers. I know it can be very uncomfortable to make the leap into homeschooling, but I'm glad that we did because it's been a really great fit for our family.
And I emailed the superintendent of Fairfax. It was like, hey, I see you guys are having a really hard time with this.
Well, you understand how the government works. You should know that you shouldn't expect an email from.
I offered free consulting. I said, I will gladly.
They weren't really concerned with
They didn't care.
Done.
And I hope he's listening because I still will offer you free consulting on how to manage a remote student base.
Education is important.
It is super important.
Yeah.
And so we were frustrated with the system. Now, I really have little to do with homeschooling. It fits our family because you and I own a remote business.
Mm-hmm.
We do work from home. All of our employees are remote. And so having the kids at home was kind of that next step. And so we're going to dive more into homeschooling, how we homeschool throughout this series of the podcast and how others can kind of explore it. But what, in starting out homeschool, let's start there. What were some of let's take it back to, I guess it was March 2020. Pandemic happened. It was like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, all right, come on. Day one, we're like, we're going to pull our kid out.
Mm-hmm.
What were the things that we had to consider? Really, you had to consider because you did it. I was just there along for the ride saying, okay.
Okay. Well, like day one of that, again, hindsight's 2020. So what it would have been at that time for me or anybody who's.
Let's say somebody listening to this is like, I want to homeschool. What do I got to do?
Look at what the homeschooling laws are in your state. Most states are really homeschooler friendly. But you need to make sure that you're adhering to whatever the requirements are. So in our state, we just have to submit a proof of progress to the school district at the end of each year, which we do through standardized testing. We have our kids take a standardized test outside of the home and school, and then we just submit their grade for that to the county. Nothing else. Some other states could be different. So Google, what are the homeschooling laws in my state?
Was there any paperwork or anything that we had to do?
Yes.
Like
that would also be.
Is that through the county?
Through the county or school district. Yeah, wherever your kids would go publicly to school. And you just declare that you're homeschooling. And I've been advised, don't give the county more than what they're asking for, right?
So what does that mean?
So when we give proof of progress, they asked, have to show proof of progress. I literally just give them the name of the test they took, which is the COGAT and the Iowa, and I just give them the score they got. I don't give any sort of breakdown, and that's just because I don't have to. And that's just how I am. I'd rather not let the government feel like they are entitled to all of my information. But maybe that's me just saying like, hey, I don't have to deal with you. Yeah. And I'm my own person.
We are as involved in the government
like maybe I should
as we are. No, I mean, that's true though. I mean, look, no, we're not editing any of this out. Part of homeschooling, homesteading, starting a business is becoming less reliant on
I don't want them to expect like they can ask you for everything. They don't need to ask you for everything.
We are not relying.
They don't need to ask,
Yeah, we take that stance where we don't rely on the government.
It's privacy.
We don't rely on big companies. We started our own.
Freedom of privacy.
Right.
So I think that we normalize, people invasiveness like in our phones and everything, and I'm blind to it a lot of times. But when there are occasions when I can assert my privacy and my desire for privacy, then I'll do that. And so.
Right. Which I think is a totally normal thing.
So anyway.
So look up your local and state laws.
Yeah, look up your local state laws.
When you pulled them out, you had to tell the county? Or
yeah, but it was very low key. That was during COVID, and it was basically we just sent an email, and they like didn't even ask for proof of progress the first year for any homeschoolers.
Because of the situation.
Yes.
It's probably different now.
They were like, yes, it's different now. But then the next thing that I would suggest to do, and this really is the most important thing, and I even go back and do this now sometimes when I need a little refresher, is the concept of unschooling, right? So when you're homeschooling, it's a completely different setting than when you're in an institutionalized classroom. And Roy, you and I were products of public school education. I didn't know any homeschoolers growing up. Honestly, I mean, we knew one or two that I had like cross paths with, and they were like a little eccentric.
It was different.
Way.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very different. Plus, I'm from a rural area, so nothing against homeschoolers in rural areas, but you know, it is different. So unschooling is the concept of just removing what your ideas and like of education are, because education isn't an institutionalized concept. Education happens and has been happening forever. It wasn't until like the Industrial Revolution where society moved away from a small, you know, classroom size to institutionalized education.
So
because parents started working. Industrial Revolution changed a lot of things in the country.
Prior to the Industrial Revolution, what was like the normal size of a classroom?
Oh, I don't have the stats on that. Maybe
or like it was just like a small classroom?
Yeah, like a one-room schoolhouse. Yes. A lot of them were wealthy kids, had governesses, which would come and tutor them, and like a classical education type of model, grammar, literature, math, science. Right?
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. But right, so going back to that, our idea as being products of public school is that you sit at a desk and do paperwork.
Yeah.
And
we have standardized testing in Virginia, and the SOLs.
Yeah.
Everything. The SOLs run.
It's a lot of, it's really encouraged, I think, for public school teachers to be
incentivized
to the test, right? And so I don't want to get in and like be bashing. That's not what I want.
We're not here to bash any teachers, but that's a fact, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but okay, unschooling is like removing like what your thought of education looks like. So start with a less is more kind of mindset going into homeschooling. Don't jump in and say, okay, like we need to do history, literature, math, science, technology, writing, spelling, like all these things every single day.
Yeah.
Like I think to start with, the best thing to do is math, writing, reading. If you are selective and very choosy with what you're reading and writing, you can add history and everything, science in there with it. I mean, we do a lot of our reading is on like historical living history books, you know, so we'll learn about Galileo, you know, during the Renaissance period. So that's like science and history while we're reading, right? And then, you know, so you try to incorporate a lot in a little. So,
which also plays into why we decided to homestead.
Yeah, think about it like a cohesive type of environment.
Yeah. We wanted to learn from that. So part of the reason behind getting bees was so that we could study the hive and what happens, even though they all left me.
It's okay.
Which is a learning experience too. And we took the comb and we brought it in. The kids look at the comb, and so that was part of like science. We went through and so it's okay. We're gonna run it all. We're gonna run it back. I became an apiist, which is a beekeeper, and then I took an online course.
There we go.
Yeah. But, you know.
We'll update when you actually become an
When I actually become an apiist. Once I, like, actually figured out TBD. But I took an online course and went through that stuff to become an apiist. And the kids watched it, too. And you watched it, didn't you?
Yeah.
And so that all teaches you, like, the 3 different types of bees, like what a queen looks like, and a queen can't fly. And there's a science lesson. And that plays into why we want to get chickens. I mean, we want eggs, but it also plays into the kids are going to have additional responsibility around the house. They're going to learn from the chickens.
They're great. They are good, responsible kids. And
they are.
They do pull their own weight.
Mostly, you know,
kids, but
they're kids.
Great.
I mean, we're talking about young children. Our 12-year-old definitely has chores.
Yeah.
The other 3, the 2-year-old doesn't have any chores.
But they're naturally helpful. I think they naturally want to be part of the family dynamic.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that homesteading helps with homeschooling?
I think it gives us, I think we're presented with a lot of really great opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first person who's homeschooling, what if, I know you get this question a lot, or people assume this a lot, where they'll be like, I don't know how to teach my kid math.
Yeah, I get that.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I know this comes from like a very like fortunate place, but we have outsourced math.
Yeah.
Which
leads into technology.
It does. But so something also to remember is the idea of homeschooling is to cultivate like this desire to have your child own their education, right? So when they're younger in this, what we call the grammar stage, like early elementary education, before they're really strong readers.
So hold on, before you dive into that,
okay.
What are the 3 stages?
Grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
And so grammar stage is what?
Early elementary up to 4th grade.
Oh, it's 4th grade.
So when they get to be really strong readers.
Okay.
And then once you're a strong reader, you enter into the logic stage, which is when you're able to own your education a bit more and do more independent work. So, people say, well, gosh, how do you homeschool all these different ages? Well, once they get to a certain point, most of their work, like for every hour he has alone, we have 10 minutes together, right? Of like what I'm doing with him. So most of my time is not being consumed with 6th grade math, right? He does his math class actually online.
Yeah. What's it called?
He's doing it through.
I know he has a tutor, but Liberty.
He's doing it through Liberty.
Yeah.
So I'm, pretty hands off with math for Avery.
And that's Liberty University for those listening. So it's LUOA. So Liberty University Online Academy.
There's all kinds of options.
Has
stuff I want works for you.
We've done Matthew C.
I really love Matthew C. And I really believe in Matthew C.
And that's like counting blocks, right? Isn't that what it is?
Blocks?
Yeah.
It's not counting blocks.
Yeah, it is. You're like,
they're math manipulative.
Math manipulative blocks. They're tools. And that's online, right?
No.
They have DVDs?
Well, so we really are getting into technology. They have like an online, what they call toolbox now, which they have, I really love Matthew C. They have like short little like learning videos that help you understand how to use the math manipulatives to teach math.
Okay. And then what else did we do? We did a couple other online things as well. I mean, we've done, for only having done homeschooling for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
We've tried about everything. Abeka.
Yeah. I still like Abeka for some time.
We do cohort, right? Co-op,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Cohort, same thing.
Co-op,
which we did a cohort. We did the synthesis, which is the Elon Musk school.
Yeah.
We did that. We did the co-op, which we go every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We do Matthew C. We do LUOA, so Liberty University Online Academy for our oldest. What else do we do?
We really are, like, you're asking what curriculum I use?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go over all of this throughout the entire podcast, but off the top of your head, what are just some ones that we've used that are like internet based?
Oh, internet based. Those are
that's a big one. Charlotte Mason, I think, in the beginning was one that we like kind of explored, right?
Yeah, so that's a learning style.
Yeah.
She was a pioneer of the education.
Yeah. So basically, which we'll get into that on another podcast, but the idea is that there's a lot of people get scared because they think that they don't know, but the tools are out there.
It's very overwhelming, and I personally believe that society does a really good job of making parents feel like they are not capable of schooling their children.
Yeah.
When reality is, I mean, not everyone is. I'm not saying that this is for everyone.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably work remote.
Okay.
And if you work remote, you potentially have the opportunity to do this. Potentially.
Yeah, but I mean,
and hopefully we can help you get there.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things is like you have to want to do it. Some people, I think they're like, I couldn't do it. It's like, well, you just don't want to do it, and that's okay.
Right, that's okay.
It's okay. It's not for everyone. That's why there are institutionalized schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to homeschool. And actually, like, I've been keeping a prayer journal for a while, and I wrote down, like, prior to 2020, like, if homeschooling is an option, like, let us see that. And lo and behold, COVID came. And so I might be.
It was you. You did it.
The least majority. But I think COVID was definitely a blessing for us. And more than just homeschooling ways, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you can look at any situation in life and you can either play the victim or you could look at the positives and roll with the punches. And the pandemic, COVID, whatever you want to call it, was no different for us. We looked at it and we said, this is going to be great. We're going to be able to travel. We're going to be able to finally homeschool. We moved.
Yeah.
Like, we did a lot over the last 3 years. It's crazy how much our business has changed, our lives, our kids, our house. It's wild. It really is. So the adverse effects on the pandemic for a lot of people was it changed schooling. And it opened up homeschooling.
It opened it up as to be an option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like in our co-op, the co-op.
How many people are in our co-op? 200?
So there's about 300 families now. It's 30 years old as the co-op has been around for 30 years. And prior to COVID, there were 70 families. Now there's 300. So you can see how, like, it's just, yeah.
And those things are and that's just one co-op in Virginia.
And not all co-ops are created equal. And I will say that
we have a great one. We got lucky.
So you really, I mean.
I'm sure there's one in.
I'm sure there's
they're all over
other
the place.
places, but like if you're in this area.
How'd you find it? Was it Facebook?
No, I mean I don't know. You know how I get like very like
just dove in.
Yes.
Found
so
it.
I was like, I'm gonna find it. Yeah.
And they're probably all over the internet. I mean, ours just happens to be at a church.
When you when you're a homeschooler, like you tend to like realize that you run in the same circles as like a lot of the other homeschoolers like in your area.
Yeah.
So like we know, like we see the same people in a lot of different places because we all kind of just end up circling the same
church,
universe.
Which we go to a different church than our co-op is at.
Yeah.
So our co-op is at a church that we don't go to. And I think our co-op just happens to be at a church. We weren't
it's a Christian church. It's a Christian co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But were we looking for a Christian co-op or we just happened to be one?
I'm like, I don't really prefer secular co-ops.
Yeah.
I've actually like leaned the other way.
Okay. I didn't know that we were, I thought it was just, we found one. Like, I didn't know it was at a church until later on. I mean, I share the same beliefs as you do, so I am right there with you. But I didn't know that, I didn't know that we were looking for one. I obviously don't play a big enough role in our homeschooling, obviously. But you could probably find a co-op anywhere. They're all over the place. You find them. You were in a homeschooling group on Facebook, I thought, right?
That's really, yeah, those are helpful. Like if you find one that's in your area, because you can, ask questions or like, where's a good place to do this?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we put a bow on.
That's that? That was just it. That was the end.
You done? No, I'm saying I think we put a pretty good bow on how to start. Here, I think you might need to bring the mic a little bit closer to you.
Okay, no, that's fine if we are done, but that was. Do
you want to be done? That's it. And cue the outro. No, I was saying like that's a pretty good bow on how to get started.
Yes. Okay. Right. And yeah, I mean, what? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking to get
less is more. I think that less is more. Take a break. If you're thinking of starting homeschooling, what's the harm in just like taking? Honestly, it sounds like a lot, but taking a couple weeks off of just schooling in general, right? And then slowly building in your rhythm routine of what it is that your homeschool is going to look like, right? So just.
Are you saying to pull your kids out of public school for a couple weeks?
No, I mean, if you're doing it, do it. Like, don't you can't just test the waters that way. But if you're going to decide to homeschool and you submit, like you're declaring that we're homeschoolers now, when you start homeschooling, like there's no reason why you couldn't just, take a little break from school in general, right?
Yeah.
And just slowly work your way up. Don't, day one, you don't want to start out like, okay, this is what we're doing today. This is my huge to-do list. You're not going to get it done. Sorry, I'm not trying to be like a doubter or anything, but it's just not going to happen. And so would you rather like be taking things off, or would you rather slowly add on more to your plate? Personally, I've done both ways, and it's a lot easier to like slowly add on more when I realize that we have bandwidth to do more.
Part of the beauty of homeschooling too is that you get to make your own schedule.
Right. And you don't want to like say, okay, we're doing 10 different subjects today. We only get through 3. Like that doesn't look very good to your child.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm very aware of
and we got a bunch of tips and tricks that we'll cover on this podcast in future episodes. Yeah. You go to Homegrown with Halie or HalieEdwards.com. We'll have some downloadables up there at some point. I think right now it's still the holiday Christmas checklist, but we'll make sure that gets taken care of. And we'll have tons of resources up there. All this flavor of the podcast will be up at Homegrown with Halie. And obviously, if you're listening to this and it's on our YouTube or on our iTunes or Spotify, this will be one of the 4 flavors of the podcast, which we're going to do this one a bunch. So I think it ties right in with the Work Wherever podcast, because remote work is more than just working from home, which we go on an RV trip every year. Mm-hmm. I say every year within the last 3 years. Since we've done this.
I really love it.
It's
I look
great.
forward to it.
We've done that. We've traveled a lot more with homeschooling. Our kids do sports during the day. Mm-hmm. Like there are entire leagues built around homeschooling, which we'll get into that on a podcast. What are some other topics we should talk about on this flavor? Sports, curriculars, because I feel like that's always a big question. People are like, oh, what do you do about extracurriculars? Don't you want to socialize? So we'll definitely do a whole podcast on that.
I would love to talk about that.
We will. We'll do that. Though requires its own episode.
I think we should come up at least once in every episode.
It's one of those things that like somebody says it and you're like, what? Do you think that like my kids we just lock them in a room?
We're on that you need to be sitting in an institution to get socialization with people that are only your age for 8 hours a day.
Right. We'll do a whole episode on that.
I don't know. I was worried about that.
It is weird.
Not really kind of.
And you're not even like, you guys are split into.
But hello, unschooling. That's why it's so important, because we're brainwashed to think that this is the way.
This is the way. You can educate in multiple different ways. There's no.
Kids will be better for it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And if you're listening to this podcast and you have bought into the Work Wherever culture of your business, this is the benefit outside of the business walls.
I also think talking about how, like you mentioned, like our routine, but people, automatically think that we're spending 8 hours a day school.
Yeah. We'll do a whole podcast on that. Multiple podcasts.
Time management.
Yeah. Because we don't school for 8 hours.
No.
Sometimes we school for like 3 hours.
Yeah. If you're really interested in homeschooling, I recommend this book by Dorinda Wilson. It's called The 4-Hour School Day. Yeah. And it really is eye-opening. Mm-hmm.
Which that plays into, we'll have to do a whole episode on that, because there's the 4-hour school day, mm-hmm. and then there's the 4-hour work week, which is essentially the business version of that. So the
4-day work week.
The 4-hour work week.
Oh.
And it's all about enabling your business through automation and process implementation, so that you're only doing a couple bits of work a day, and the machines and the data and the AI and the bots are doing the rest, sending out emails, triggering, and that's
why homesteading is important, because we need to learn skills.
You gotta learn that stuff. The robots they're coming for us. They're coming for your job. So grow some crops and learn to slit a chicken's throat, which I didn't know there are 3 ways to kill a chicken.
No, there's probably so many more ways. But what I didn't know is that they actually can survive lengthy periods of time.
Years.
Their brains are really low on their neck. So if you decapitate the chicken and its brain is still in its neck, it's going to live.
It's going to live.
There was a chicken where you have to look it up. They named it like Mike or something. He lived for 18 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had no head.
Yeah, and they just kept it going because it was like, a little freak show kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to look it up. What is it called?
I think his name's Mike.
Mike the Headless Chicken.
Yes.
It did. It popped right up.
Mike the Headless Chicken.
Oh my.
Yeah, picture and everything, right?
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
I'm going to share this.
Jessica Moberly. Oh, I shouldn't say her name. We have to edit that part out. I was gonna say
A friend of ours.
If you're listening, you know how I love just weird random things on the internet, and Mike the Headless Chicken is one of them.
I'm going to find this picture of Mike the Headless Chicken, and we're going to share it so that everybody can see.
Yeah.
So how long did he live for?
I think 18 months. I could be wrong. It probably says it.
Where's Mike the Headless Chicken? How do I do this? I'm trying to share for everybody so they can see this too.
Yeah.
Add a file from my computer. Upload. Mike the Headless Chicken, where you at? I don't know. Maybe I
He should be
can.
our mascot. He should be our mascot.
Mike the Headless Chicken. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't find it. Sorry, guys. I tried to find this Mike the Headless Chicken picture. I have it right in front of me. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I think I have it now. This is one last shot. I'm going to give it one last try. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or you're listening on iTunes or anything like that, we have put a ton of resources into our YouTube channel. So watch us on YouTube so that I can't find it. I don't know. I just saved it. It is
Google
what it is. Yeah, just Google Mike the Headless Chicken. But
if you want to.
we're going to figure out how to do this. I don't know how to do this. Whatever. But yeah, we're going to be sharing more videos and pictures. I probably should have known to look for Mike the Headless Chicken or something like that. And there's a way to share this stuff, and I'm going to figure it out. But we put a lot of time and energy into the studio that we have down here, which the studio's in our house.
Yeah, you and Steve did a really good job.
It's not bad, right?
It's nice.
Yeah. See that TV right next to you?
It's surprisingly, the kids haven't.
I'll make it full screen. So this TV, so if you're watching on YouTube, the TV to the left, this little guy, I'll give it a shake. We're going to have like, when you have like a TV show, you're watching a TV show and they have like things up there behind, like a big screen or whatever.
Yeah.
Love that. When we're doing interviews, the person will be up on that. So we'll be able to I don't know. We're going to do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to share videos, share pictures. I wish I had Mike the Headless Chicken to be able to show, but
well, maybe we'll have our own Mike the Headless Chicken.
I really hope not.
No.
It's so when we looked at it, we were like, how would I kill a chicken? Right? And so what was it called? Kill cone?
Mm-hmm.
You
I don't know how to be called that, but yeah.
You stuff the chicken in this
a cone.
Oil.
It's like
cone.
A funnel.
And you slit its throat.
Mm-hmm.
And it just
my grandma, she used to swing a chicken
around its head. Yeah, her head.
To break its neck.
That's a much better option than chopping its head off.
I think so too, because if you're moving it around your head, it's already moving, so you're not noticing its wings flapping while you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, that was another option, was to break its neck with it on the ground.
But then they still have
have that
reflex.
Yeah.
So I'm not
man, we're getting into it here at Homesteading. We're in for an interesting treat, and you listeners get to be along for the ride as we just learn how to slaughter chickens and collect eggs and keep bees from flying away. What else did we talk about doing? We're gonna get a pony at some point.
No, that's not right. We get dinner soon.
We do have to get dinner.
Yeah.
But we gotta get a pony. And then what was the other one? You wanted to get goats, which I don't think goats are illegal.
Goats? I don't even know why you would say something like that.
Our HOA, I don't think we can do
I
it.
cannot with you with the HOA. I feel like I've been having dreams about me wanting to do things, and you're like,
I don't like the HOA either. I don't like the HOA, but it doesn't get fined.
Our neighbors have a pig that run around its front yard. I saw it this morning. I saw it today for the first time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It's a little pig, though.
The HOA doesn't matter. And the goats are going to be clearing brush. They have their job. They're my indentured
This is a tool.
servants. Listen, exactly. That's what I would say.
This isn't what is the term in the HOA thing? Undesirables?
Yeah. it's a subjective term.
Right. These aren't undesirable animals. These are a tool.
And I appreciate that because they leave it open to like votes and stuff. But even still, I mean, whatever. No one's gonna know. And if they find out, then if people eat goats,
slaughter some goats.
Yeah, that's I think that goats.
Make the kids do it. It'll be an art project.
That's sick.
Homeschooling has no end. This is all homeschool. Oh man. Well, we got a lot to talk about throughout this. We're calling it Homegrown, and like I said, all these episodes will be on Homegrown with Halie. Be up on your website, which is a great site, and then they'll be obviously on Go Work Wherever, because this is a part of Go Work Wherever. And so we'll have resources on Homegrown with Halie, and this will play into the Go Work Wherever website. Go Work Wherever, like you said from the very beginning, Go Work Wherever is more than just like working from home. There's so much to talk about. I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. So is there anything else we want to talk about here on our first episode of Homegrown? It's been great having you sitting there.
No, thanks.
I need to get a better seat, though. Maybe I'll sit next to you next time.
I'd like to sit next time.
Yeah. The only reason why I'm over here is because of the computer. So I was making sure that our levels and everything were working.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Those chairs that you're sitting in are so much more comfortable.
You're sitting on
I'm sitting in
I
a
just
fold-up
noticed what
chair.
you're sitting on.
It's a fold-up chair. You're sitting in like a...
Oh my gosh, yeah. It looks really uncomfortable.
It's not the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That chair, which I have two of them.
Yeah.
And now we have
There's
3 of the really good mics. So it's not even like we only have
great.
2 good mics.
Yeah.
It's not a bad studio. It's come along pretty good. So, all right. Anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
That's it. Let's leave it with the goat slaughtering.
Leave it with the goat slaughtering and the chickens swinging around your head. And if you guys are looking into homeschooling, check out Homegrown with Halie. We're going to be posting a lot of resources up there, and go to workwherever.com as well. If you want to learn more about how to work wherever, maybe you're just starting out in your career and you're like, man, I want to slaughter some goats. I want to swing chickens around my head and homeschool and be able to go take RV trips, then you're in the right place. You go to goworkwherever.com, and we got some tips and tricks. We got a guidebook actually that you can purchase on steps of how to enable your organization to work wherever so that you can do these things. And throughout this entire podcast, whatever flavors that you're listening to, whether it's homegrown, whether it's the internet hotspot, whether it's my one-on-ones or with interviews, we're going to give you tools, tips, tricks on how you guys can build a remote culture, build a remote business, build a homeschooling environment so that you can live every day like it's Saturday. So enjoy life. We're only here for a short amount of time. So enjoy it. Well, thanks for hanging out, guys. Until next time. See ya.
Hey there! Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for all the latest videos from Capital Presence.